set. So, okay, so now I'm going to close out that budget meeting thing, and I'm going to go on to what I came here for tonight. And because the time is late, I have a lot of thank yous for a lot of reasons based on what's been going on in the region over the past week or so, but I'm going to save that to the end of my time if I'm given just 5 minutes. I did make a note that the last person just spoke for 15.
You're right. I did not set I thought I hit my stopwatch here.
Okay, so I'm just making note of that, but I'm going to leave out the really cool stuff I was going to say to kind of set everybody's minds at ease about our regenerative future that I'm really excited about. You want to give me an extra few minutes, I'll go into that to leave us on a nice note. Because I have some real serious things to bring up tonight. And I feel in the name of transparency, it's really important that it come out publicly. I found out this information about a month ago. I've been talking to a lot of different people. I've been trying to do my own research before I came out with it publicly. And the first time I spoke of it publicly was yesterday at the Allegheny County Health Department meeting downtown. I want to just reiterate, and I know that you all have heard me so much. My name is Alyssa Beck. I don't even think I said, or I guess they called me. But I'm really interested in the precautionary principle. It's all about our human health and the health of future generations. So I don't really mean to be up here as a thorn in everybody's side. I'm trying to just help all of us as we move into our future. We've asked over and over again, Mr. Ratcher, Mr. Gressok, Dr. Gressok, Mr. Little, all of you, to put rules, specific rules in place regarding fracking and related infrastructure. I have the questions over and over again. So a couple of weeks ago, a few of us went to a Huntley and Huntley meeting with Huntley and Huntley Exploration, who met with 20 residents who live extremely close to the Gaia pad in Penn Township. This is a hydrofracturing fracking pad where 9 wells from a specific one pad will be drilled. The construction began this week. This pad is, and I'm going to put the map right here that Mr. Little prepared. I'll ask that you put it up on the screen. And please leave it there for a minute so we can know what we're talking about here.
Joe,
In the very middle.
Zoom in just a little bit, Joe. If you could zoom in a little bit, that'd be great. Yeah.
In the very middle of where all of the pins are, in the very center here, is where we are right now. That's the Monroeville. This is really a visual perceptual activity. That's the Monroeville Municipal Building. And so the Gaia well pad is right over here. It's one of those 2 pins. So it's about 9 miles from where we're sitting, but I don't know where all you live. I know Mr. Ratcher lives near where the Draculic well is to be drilled. We live about 5 miles from the Gaia well pad. And again, construction began this week on that with 1 well. So Huntley and Huntley called a meeting with 20 residents who live extremely close to the Gaia pad in Penn Township, gave them 24-hour emergency phone numbers just in case anything should happen around there. We know recently in the news a house blew up related to gas infrastructure. I don't even know where that was in Pennsylvania, but these kinds of things are happening. We live in a pretty densely populated area relative to where this kind of development has been happening up to this point. So Monroeville's kind of on the edge of something that's different than has been happening before. I'm getting a little nervous, to be quite frank, because I was invited to this meeting, not by Huntley and Huntley, but I was invited there, and I saw some unbelievable things. Huntley and Huntley called it a private meeting. I didn't want to sign in. They almost didn't let me come to the meeting. And then somebody came over to me who is a very well-spoken person at Huntley and Huntley and asked why I wouldn't want to sign in for this meeting, and they wouldn't let us take photos. They did not take questions publicly. They broke people up into groups. There were some pretty hysterical people there. They put out large maps as large as this desk, and they showed people where their homes were compared to where they were drilling. Again, this is about 5 miles from where I live, and I know based on the Environmental Health Project, that when you are within 5 miles of where one well pad is being drilled, this is, again, 9 pads, 1 pad, 9 wells are to be drilled here. There are air pollution and water pollution concerns. So the question, what I know now, I know also, I may be jumping around a little bit here. Okay, I know that construction began this week. I know that there are different phases in the construction of a drill site. The second phase will begin in about 30 to 60 to 90 days, depending on weather. This is very concerning to me. There is something called green completions. We don't have control over what goes on outside of Allegheny County. This is not Allegheny County, it's Westmoreland County. But just keep that in mind, green completions. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside for just a minute. What I know now, this is the first public statement that I'm making about this, that hydraulic fracturing or fracking drill filings have been dumped in the Monroeville landfill since 2009. Were any of you aware of that? Any of you here?
I don't think anybody keeps track of exactly what's dumped there shy of hazmat material.
Shy of hazmat, so that's really important, Mr. Harvey. Because Marcellus shale waste, it has to do with the gas industry, and there's something called the Halliburton loophole that was passed when Dick Cheney was vice president with Mr. President Bush. The gas industry is not held to the same standards as other, like the coal industry, for example. So we have had Marcellus shale waste dumped at the Thomas Street site, which is about, as the crow flies, maybe 2.5 miles from where I live, where we live. And I have a list here, I'll show it to you, from the reports that went to the PADEP. Waste details for the reporting period, July 2009 to 10, drill cuttings in tons, 104,496 gallons. It goes on, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. In 2017, they started putting in produced fluid in barrels, 18,480 gallons. Okay.
Dr. Beck, would you be able to, at the end, give us a copy of that?
Absolutely. I have a few things to give you copies of. So this is what I know now. When I first learned this information, as you can imagine, because I founded Sustainable Monroeville in 2009, as you can imagine, I've been coming here. I'm really concerned for all of you men and women here, and myself, and our future generations. When I found out this information, it's waste management. It's not just our landfill, it's the Valley landfill, it's a lot of waste management landfills, and other places all around us here. I was really not very happy for about a day. I didn't even want to come here and say these things because I thought this can't be true. This has got to be, like, how could I not know this? How can we not know what's coming into our community? What I see now, so that was what I know now, what I see now. 7 of us were invited and went to the Monroeville landfill to take a tour a couple of weeks ago. There is a pile of slag. First of all, it's the most beautiful property in Monroeville. It's beautiful. If you've never been there, you ought to take a tour. You can see Pittsburgh. Have you ever been there? Have any of you ever taken the tour?
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's magnificent. I took a lot of photographs. It was stunning. I was like, wow, this is Monroeville? This should be a park. This should be a natural site. Well, you can't plant trees on the top, because if you plant trees, then the roots will go down into Mother Earth, which at this point is a big pile of trash, and it will break up. They showed us the infrastructure that'll break up that infrastructure, so you can't plant trees. What I see now, what I saw was a pile of slag that they explained to us gets combined with this fluid, this produced fluid. We don't really know what that means. We haven't had a chance to do research, but it has something to do with Marcellus shale waste, and it's going to a landfill called Thomas Street Waste Management. It goes in with all the other household waste, business waste, industrial waste. There's no special space for this waste. Okay, I'm going to put that aside for a minute, and I'm going to read an example of what other communities and areas have done to protect our health. There is something called, it has to do with green completion. These are new vocabulary words for me. I'm going to say them over and over again just so we can maybe get it into our MS4 stormwater management stuff, because this is serious. It's going to be coming into Monroeville out of that landfill. Because I don't care what you put in between waste and the next layer of earth, eventually it's coming through. So there's something called closed loop, and there's a company called Anadarko, which is drilling extensively on state forest land in Pennsylvania. They decided in 2015 to convert all its Marcellus operations into closed loop systems, eliminating pits and collecting debris in steel containers that are carted to landfills. It's my understanding, and please somebody prove me wrong, that's not happening in our landfill. It also received state permission to dig up the buried cuttings, and these cuttings are exactly what's been going into our landfill. In my view, I think, somebody tell me that I'm wrong, they've been digging these up from about a dozen wells it had already drilled. Quote from Anadarko, "We want to say we haven't buried anything here," said Steve Wolfel, Anadarko's drilling operations manager in Appalachia. Continued quote, "It always could be a risk. It could come back to you," unquote. Anadarko says the closed loop system is part of a broader, quote, no spill strategy aimed at keeping all materials contained during the drilling process. Said Scott Chesebro, Anadarko's engineering manager for Appalachian operations, "Nothing we bring to the surface touches the ground." So that's called green completion, where they gather this stuff and they put it somewhere else, so maybe for a few more years it's not going to go into our water, into our air. Green completions also capture hydrocarbons and VOCs. That stands for volatile organic compounds during flowback. I'm real concerned about this. Is this happening 5 miles from what I'm breathing? Just a few miles from Ramsey Elementary School? I don't know. Is it the responsibility of our elected officials and our mayor and our municipal manager to find out answers to these questions? I would hope so.
Well, Dr. Beck, if you could get to, I don't know about council, but this is news to me what you're telling us. Do you have any suggestions of action items that we could do? I don't know if we're able to regulate what goes on at the landfill, but I think that's something we need to look at, if there's something that we can do there. Some of the suggestions you're making about this green completions with these companies, I don't know if there's anything in our power that we could do.
Huntley and Huntley is right next door. I know that some of you, at least, have been in conversation with them about a variety of things, because they're
only
right.
what they. I mean, we've only spoken to them publicly.
Well, I guess one question I have is, have they spoken to anybody here about what infrastructure they're going to be putting in Monroeville related to that, such as compressor stations, pipelines, anything?
There's nothing going on.
Nothing has been.
Okay, so we learned when we went to the landfill, and we already knew that the land underneath the landfill has been sold for fracking rights. We were assured by the landfill folks, by Waste Management, they're not going to drill through the landfill. However, when I asked the question, well, are you going to put a well right next to the landfill where the shooting range is, or the fire station? I don't know what's right there, but there's
Training center, it's not going there either.
Well, somewhere near there's a lot of property. I walked up to the map that they have there and I said, well, what if you put something right here and then you drill down? Are you going to drill underneath the landfill? And they said that was proprietary. So they did not say no, is my point here. Are we monitoring? I was at a meeting at the Allegheny County Health Department yesterday where I mentioned some of this information publicly. The Allegheny County Health Department does have some kind of monitors. What monitors are in Monroeville? What air monitors? These are specific questions. Council, mayor, municipal manager.
Did you ask Allegheny County?
Pardon?
Did you ask Allegheny County?
I ask, but they don't say anything back. You just ask, and then they mail you a letter. Hopefully, they'll mail me a letter. They were the ones that told me that this Sadot well that's in Plum was not an unconventional well. I learned later the Sadot well, which is 7 miles from Monroeville, is where the Plum injection well was approved. So 7 miles from here, there's going to be lots of fracking fluid going underneath the earth around here. So if we're worried about 1 or 2 or 3 roads that are going down into the stream, it's going to be real interesting to see what's going on 2 years from now. I'm just really curious. I'm hoping that it's not affecting the ecosystem, but I know that it is. I'm hoping in this 2019 budget, the MS4, that you're going to include water monitoring, you're going to include air monitoring, because you want pre-testing before this stuff happens. Because if you don't have pre-testing, you don't have a leg to stand on. Because they can just say, oh, this is Pittsburgh, this is oil, this is undermined, this has nothing to do with us. I'll ask each of you to read the book Amity and Prosperity by Eliza Griswold that just came out this year, and just see what kinds of questions you all need to be asking our neighboring municipalities, because we may not have any control over it, but we share the same air and the same water.
And Dr.
So
Beck,
I want to leave this on a positive note, because I know that I probably am taking close to whatever the last man did.
I forwarded you the same time. So if you could,
Thank you. So what can we do? This is going to all seem totally unrelated, but right now, I don't care. One thing is, go to sustainablemonroeville.blogspot.com and just read what's up there. Go to the Facebook page. I did a masterful post on the Facebook page of Sustainable Monroeville while the police chief was talking. Don't tell him. Are you listening, Mr. Cole? Go to the Shale and Public Health Conference. Maybe you can just put the camera on this. Are you guys still there?
Yep.
Now you can zoom back out so you can see the whole thing. No.
up far.
Zoom back out.
If you could just tell us the
The
dates.
Shale and Public Health Conference
Where is it and when is
sponsored
it?
by the League of Women Voters. It's at the University of Pittsburgh University Club. It's Wednesday, November 14th from 9 to 5. It behooves us right now to go there and learn everything we can about what's going on related to shale and public health.
And Dr. Beck, that will be on your Sustainable Monroeville blog spot as well, that conference information?
I just posted it, like, while I was sitting here
Okay,
tonight.
perfect. So
Yes.
folks can look there if they didn't catch it.
Yes. Look at the work. Join Protect PT, Citizens of Monroeville. They are protecting our air and water. It's $10 a year. They need our memberships. And I'm going to leave it at that. The fun part I'll do another time, or I'll post it on the blog spot. The last thing I'm going to leave council with is that we need to uphold Pennsylvania's Environmental Rights Amendment, which is, I've talked about it before here, I read it here, Article 1, Section 27, that we have a right to clean air and fresh water. So I'll not impose on you, but I'll give you the petition, and if you feel like signing it, great. If you don't, give it to your next door neighbor, or you can sign it online. So thank you.
Thank you. It's good information. And yes, if you had that information about the landfill, or if you get a copy, please, that'd be great.